It's another episode of Beyond the Flightline, dedicated to flight. Hosted by David Dicey.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Flightline, Episode 2. Thank you everybody who listened to the first episode of the show. Saw lots of downloads for that one, so glad you guys enjoy it. Definitely hoping to up the game a little bit from the first episode. Not to say it was a bad one, but I have some very interesting stuff in store for you in the coming weeks and months. So keep an eye out for that. As is per usual with the show, from the RC Freak days to now, I'll start off with the news here, and then we'll move into an interview, which this week is with Patrick from KDE Direct. We talk a little bit about his 800 conversion for the T-Rex 700 Nitro, not the electric. And we just kind of talk about the new motor line, how that's been going for him, and some plans he has in the works. So keep an eye out for that one. Very fun interview, about 40 minutes or so. But first, let's go through some of the news. And I'm going to go in reverse order for this one. So newest to oldest that I have that I thought you guys would be interested in. First off, this weekend was the Dollhouse Flightline event up at Kyle Dahl's regular flying field, where there was quite a bit in the way of announcements from Mikado. They showed off their new 700, which is, as was expected, a shrunken down version of the Extreme. Not a lot of details on it yet, though there is a prospective launch date of July or August. There was also an update to the Logo 600, the SX, which has an updated fly-railless head, and a few changes to it. So you can check that one out when that comes out in June. I think some of the features on that one are a third bearing block, some changes to the tail case, and a couple other bits and pieces on that. I haven't taken a close look at it. If I see anything else interesting or there's more details on these in the coming weeks, I'll certainly let you guys know. And the third thing that they showed off was the new black case full-size V-bar. The main difference with this is the electronics in the main box are the same, but in the sensor, it's a very similar sensor to what's in the CGY 750. So the vibrating ring gyros, I think, is what they're using on that. Helps minimize vibration interference and just overall improves performance. No real details that I have for the launch for that one, though you could probably expect that one around June, perhaps. So you can check that one out. Okay. Align announced their T-Rex 700 Black Shark 3 fuselage. They've worked with Japanese designer Kurokawa Yoshihide on the design, who is well known for his Black Shark design series. They've come up with all the mounting equipment and everything to put it onto your T-Rex 700. They include vibration mounts, new tail case, the landing gear, a whole bunch of stuff to get a Black Shark fuselage mounted on your 700. No pricing yet, but the fuselage does weigh 520 grams, so you can check that out fairly soon, most likely, since the line usually announces things in about 4 to 6 weeks or so. They'll have it out on the market. E-Flight has announced the Blade 130X bind and fly helicopter, which is another fly-barless helicopter in their repertoire. This one runs on a 2S battery system, so a little bit bigger than the MCPX, and also features a torque tube-driven tail. I can imagine a very tiny torque tube in that, looking at the picture of this. Looks like an interesting setup. Same kind of linear servos as we've gotten used to. An actual proper tail pitch servo for the tail, or proper tail servo, so you can check that out. Again, no release date on this one, so keep your eyes out for the 130X at some time in the near future from Horizon. Bobby Watts has announced that he's going to be joining the Gaui flight team as a member of Gaui Research and Development. So if you liked what he did with the Whiplash, I'm sure you'll see some of those small design characteristics that he brought to the table start to make their way into Gaui products very soon. congratulations to Bobby on the new team after he left Ministry Aircraft last year. I hope he does very well with that team. As I mentioned earlier, this is a KDE Direct product. The 800 EC series kits, which is a conversion kit to make an 800 out of the T-Rex 700N series of helicopters. So this is an electric conversion, not just a stretch for the 700E. So you can check that one out. I believe it's on the market now. We can hear a little bit more about that setup when I talk with Patrick later in the show. On plane news, I have 2 Hacker releases here. I have the Hacker model SBOC 1200, which is a little 1.2 meter wingspan ARF plane made out of EPP. Comes with 4 servos, the motor, controller, and the prop, and it runs off a 3S 2200. Don't have much else here in the way of details. Don't have a release date. Another combo series here for Hacker is the Model 840, which is a profile plane here. They actually have a couple ones that they've released here. They got the Furious 840, the Red Baron 840, and the Rare Bear 840. Those come with 2 servos, the brushless motor, and the controller and prop. So you can check that one out very soon. You'll need a 3S LiPo in the 800 to 900 milliamp hour range. So you can check those out whenever Hacker brings them to the market, which hopefully should be very, very soon. So from here, I think we'll move on into our interview for the show, which is with Patrick from KDE Direct. Those of you who listen to RC Freak podcast remember that he's been on a couple times before, but I figured I'd bring him on to talk about some of his new products and what he has in mind for things in the future, and also opening up suggestions from you, the listeners, and his wide number of customers as to input as to what you think he should make next. So thank you, Patrick, for coming on the show, and we'll go straight to that interview.
On the Flightline.
Hey everybody, I've got Patrick from KDE Direct, which is up in Washington, right?
Yeah, Washington State.
And if you don't know about KDE Direct, you can take a jump over to their website, which is kdedirect.com, and you can see that they have quite a bit in the way of helicopter upgrades, as well as a very nice motor line, and slowly getting into some airplane upgrades. So, Patrick, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, David. It's great to be here.
Yeah. For those of you who listened to the RC Freak podcast, you're well acquainted with Patrick. I think we did like 3 shows.
That's right. Yep.
Something like that. And for those of you who are just tuning in to Beyond the Flightline, Patrick is an absolutely great engineer and has some very impressive helicopters with his upgrades on there, particularly with that XF, this is the 700 495.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep. So, yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, when you were bringing up the motor line, we're really excited about this. We started that project, more than about 2 years ago. It was in development. I met with some of the Castle Creations engineers at the time at the IRCHA 2010 event, and got to talk to them about the way speed controls interact with motors. And since then, we really collaborated a long time. I know Castle went through a tough time with their speed controls with some vendors that they were struggling with. But now, their new stuff, their ICE 2 stuff is working extremely good, and we couldn't be more proud of how these motors are running with various speed controls, but especially the Castle Creations line. Everything has been optimized to run with these, and specifically, these motors are developed for helicopter use. There are a few customers out there that use these on airplanes and love them. They can handle the torque loads and do everything you need to do with them. But for helicopters, before we ever launched a motor, we made sure it was kind of the leader in performance and efficiency, and it's paying off. People are really noticing the difference.
Yeah. Well, what's impressive with your motor line is before you had this XF motor line, you had the KDE new collaboration motor, 1917, which was already an absolute powerhouse, and this new 700 XF is even more so.
Yeah, that was that motor was an excellent motor. I enjoyed working with Steve New. As the collaboration went on longer with his particular company, we ran into some issues between us, but it was time to look at another manufacturer, and I knew I'd wanted to go from the NU line was in runners, and I knew there were some distinct advantages for outrunners that I wanted to really get involved with. And that's where the XF series came about, was basically knowing the benchmark of performance, and then we weren't going to launch anything until we beat it. So
right.
These motors were pretty much designed to have the best of the best inside of them that the physics kind of allows for. So there's a lot of ways to make motors, and it's actually a very interesting subject, and there's still a lot about motors I don't even fully understand, especially the electrical side. I'm a mechanical engineer, but the electrical side, there's some things that I let the guys that understand it develop that part, and let them just tell me what to do. But on the mechanical side, it's been a joy just building these things and getting them to the level where they are now.
Yeah. Well, and the level where we are now, we talked about this a little bit before the show, is the 800s, which are becoming kind of the thing for people this year. I always think that there's like one helicopter size that really takes a hold for a year. Last year it was 90s. That was kind of, everybody was putting out their new 90s, or there was new upgrades for those coming out. A couple of years ago it was 450s. The market was absolutely flooded with brand new 450s, and I think this year it's the 800, because there's extension kits for 700s to 800s, like what you're doing. There's brand new 800s that are coming out, like the Logo Extreme, which is already on the market. And then you have, I think Miniature Aircraft is doing a Whiplash 800 at some point.
Yeah, I believe so. And yeah, the 800s really are coming about from the developments. The biggest limitation always for the 800 series has been the power systems. It's amazing the difference. 3 years ago, when we started the 700 E conversion, which was the conversion, we came out the kit that converted the 700, the Align T-Rex 700 Nitro to an electric. And at that time, the 700 electrics were kind of new. I mean, the speed controls were there, but they couldn't quite handle the amp loads that we wanted. There was really no 700 electric per se kit on the market. So the only way to build it was to take a 90 Nitro and change it to an electric, and then try and find the best motor. But at the time, there really wasn't even really motors really designed to handle that kind of power. And that's what led me into the new motors collaboration, was let's figure out a way to do this. And then now, this year now, you look, all the main competitors and all the competitions are flying 700 electrics. You go to the shows, you see less and less Nitro and more 700 electrics. And you look at the market, and there are so many new 700 electrics coming this year. You got the Goblin from Outrage or SAB.
Yep. They got their 770.
There's rumor about a new Fusion 90 coming from Outrage. You got the Miniature Aircraft Whiplash. You got the 700E from Align. I mean, there's all these great helicopters. And so we started looking at that and going, well, the 800 is kind of the next step. This would be a lot of fun to build. And we started off with a 700 electric, actually, and we used the stretch kit and put that all together. Well, the problem was it became very tail heavy. And with fiberless systems, it really makes a big difference to have the center of gravity centered right along the main shaft in the lateral, like front nose to tail.
Right.
And it makes a big difference. Fly bars, it did make a difference, but with fiberless, it's really noticeable on any of the systems. And so, kind of scratching our head, I went back to the 700 Nitro E-conversion components that we still had, and I just stretched it out, and we came out with a KDE 700XF 395 kV motor, specific for 800s that can handle, I think, 12,000 watt peaks. I mean, it's a really powerful motor. It's really designed for 14S or 16S, but it runs great on 12S, we're finding.
Yeah.
And with that motor and the batteries in the original positions, at an 800, it balances perfect. We were actually surprised that the center of gravity was right there, perfectly in line with the main shaft. And since then, it's actually become a pretty popular kit because it's less than 13 pounds, and now you're flying an 800 around, and it's actually a ton of fun. I mean, it flies so different than an 700. It's almost something you have to experience to enjoy.
Yeah, I was wondering about that when I saw your conversion kit, and you clearly explained why, as to why you picked the nitro conversion as opposed to just a stretch on the electric.
Yeah, I mean, the electric, we have a lot of components for those too, and it's a great helicopter. I really like the frame layout that Align did, and you got the batteries inside. But, about a year and a half ago, I came out with the receiver mount that allowed you to slide the batteries forward, because even then, the 700 was tail heavy. And now Align has that involved in their kits where you can put the battery right up to the nose. Well, you can't move them any more forward, and so you put the 800 tail on the back, and all of a sudden it's tail heavy. You got nowhere to put components. And so I went back to the Nitro E conversion. You got a lot more room. The camera guys, aerial photography guys, love it because there's a little bit more room, and you have a whole metal tray to mount your camera ship to. And I'm going to try and come out with a video here pretty soon showing the 800 and how quiet it is. It's pretty amazing how quiet and stable the helicopter flies. It's we fly it anywhere from 1400 up to about 1900 head speed, and any of those speeds, it's just like it handles so well. It almost feels like cheating when you're flying it. So
yeah. I look forward to getting my hands on the 800 and seeing how that performs in comparison to the 90 size. I'm sure not quite as ballistic as some of the 90s have gotten lately, but I'm sure quite the experience in itself.
No, it's very different. I mean, the 90 electric, the motor that we have for that, the 700XF 495, I mean, it's definitely a 3D performance monster. I mean, if you want something that's really fast, in your face, competition flying, that's the way to go. But the 800 it definitely can do anything in 3D. It's not a smackdown machine. I don't think any 800 is really designed for that. But for auto rotations, I mean, it's like cheating on auto rotations. It just hangs and hangs forever. It's a lot of fun. So, and for just going out doing rolls, flips, TikToks, anything you really want to throw at it, it can handle it. I mean, it's just so much different in the flight characteristics that it definitely is a lot more stable.
Yeah. Well, speaking of 700s, moving to downsize to those, for a while you were only doing Align helicopters, and lately you've really expanded out to you're covering Compass. You've got the Outrage 90 series, the Synergy E7. And some Mikado bits and pieces. What made you decide to start moving out to those brands?
Sure. Well, a lot of it comes from, as we've grown and grown, we've actually had owners of these companies contact us and be interested in, basically saying, could you make upgrades for us? There's various, with Align, our relationship has been very different. I've never had communication with Align. They don't call me. They make their helicopters, I make upgrades, and we both enjoy the hobby.
Right.
But these other brands, they've contacted me and said, hey, look, would you be interested? And I say, sure, let me know what you're kind of looking at, and I'll try and come up with a concept for you. So that's actually been a lot more, that's kind of fun collaborating with the company on, they don't have the resources to focus on upgrades, and we enjoy doing it. So, let us know what you're interested in, and it may or may not work as a business for us, but sometimes we just do it because I'm really enjoying it, and I have one of the helicopters. And a lot of the upgrades I make is because I own the helicopter, and then I want to have this or that on it, or I don't like the way the helicopter has this certain aspect to it, so I just create my own, and then I'll start selling it on the market if it works good, and go from there. So
that's a cool approach to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I've worked in industry before that where I really wasn't loving my job, and this was always my passion, was this hobby, and so I try and keep it that I'm enjoying this hobby, and if it's something a product that I'm not going to enjoy, I'm not going to sell it. You know, it's something that I'm proud of to sell out there, and it's one of the reasons we really promote the Made in USA thing, because I'm proud of the fact that we are. So I want to make sure that, you know, the quality's up to the standard, and if someone has a problem with the product, we take care of it. We're not here to try and make a whole bunch of money. We're here to make good products and enjoy the hobby. You know, so
yeah,
that's really where we come out of.
Yeah. Now, something you've started to do, so far it's only one part at this point, though, possibility of others, is you started doing a motor mount upgrade for the Park Zone F-27C Striker. What kind of brought that around?
You know, that's actually a really funny design. That started, oh man, and I kind of missed the market on that one, honestly. About 3 years ago, maybe, I was at a show, and that's when Strikers, even at RC helicopter shows, we were at the Brooks, Oregon Fun Fly, I think of 2009 maybe 2010. And when the light starts getting kind of dark and the helicopter guys are kind of tired, usually that's when all the Strikers would start coming out. Everyone's flying these things around and battling in the skies and having a good time when the light's kind of getting low. And, about 5 pilots came up to me and they said, hey man, you know, we've wanted to go to these crazy 4S light post setups where they were pushing these things to like 140 miles per hour or whatever. I mean, they were crazy fast. But the torque was actually breaking the plastic motor mount in flight. I mean, the airplane wasn't designed for that. It was designed for 3S and quite a bit lower kV motor, and they're basically just like supercharging these things.
Yeah.
And they said, can you make one of these? And I go, yeah, you know, that would be a tough design to make it light enough, but, you know, maybe. Well, I got busy doing other stuff, and it was probably almost 2 years later, I finally got back to it and came out with that upgrade. And it was our first airplane part, and it was really cool. We had a great following of people. People were really enjoying it. And then about, 2 months later, I want to say Park Zone came out with their new version of that helicopter, or of that airplane.
Yeah, F-27Q, I think it is.
Yeah, and I saw that and go, oh, shoot. I mean, I had like a 3-year window to really market that product, but their new airplane flies great too, and, you know, they got rid of that motor mount design and went to something much better, and, you know, they really improved the airplane, so it made sense to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even still to this day, I'm surprised we still sell them. I mean, I guess there's a lot of guys out there with Striker airframes, and they enjoy them. So I think I even saw one guy that went to like a 6S setup on it. I mean, the thing, it was so fast. I'm surprised the foam can handle it. I mean, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely something different approach to it.
Yeah, and that was a fun design. That was a big challenge. I think all the walls were 30 thousandths of an inch or some with aluminum. I mean, it was a real challenge in manufacturing to get that just right. So it was kind of a fun challenge for us to do that product.
Yeah. So are you planning to try and take on any other airplane-related parts like that? Like maybe doing a generic motor mount or something like that for electrics?
Yeah, you know, we have looked at some other designs. I haven't jumped on anything yet, mainly because my passion's always been RC helicopters. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, I'll get some people giving me some kind of ideas for airplanes, and I'll look into it. And, you know, if I see something that looks really cool that we could do, I'll definitely do it. It's the airplane market's very different than the helicopter. I know the helicopter market pretty well, I feel, but the airplane market is kind of a new thing to me. So it's kind of making sure I pick the right product at the right time. And, you know, it's definitely a totally different industry, but something we're definitely looking at.
Well, cool. There you go, airplane guys. You can pick up your KDE Direct stuff possibly very soon.
Yeah. And you know, while I'm on your show, you know, we're more than happy. Send me an email at sales@kdedirect.com. It'll go to me. If you have any ideas or want to see something happen, just let me know. I mean, we're pretty laid back here. If you want to see something come to life, you know, we'll try and make it happen for you. Can't do everything, but you know, every once in a while there comes a great idea, and we'll try and bring to the market.
Yeah. Now, bouncing back to, you mentioned your relationship with Align is a little bit different compared to other manufacturers coming to talk to you about doing upgrades. What do you think of Align coming up with a very suspiciously similar looking tail setup for their 600, I believe?
Yeah, it's you know, I thought that question might come up. I've had a lot of people email me about that. Yeah, you know, we came out with, it's one of those things that, you know what, it's their helicopter, they have the right to do it. If it was my helicopter, I might do the same thing. It's really hard to say. And since we don't have a collaboration or a working relationship together, you know, it's one of those things that as a business owner and a designer, when you see it happen, and this is totally just being honest, it's hard to just not get frustrated about it or take it, you know, kind of take it as a pride thing. You know, it's kind of hard to just say, oh, I spent so much time and effort designing this and testing it and spending all this money to do it. And there it is, you know, another company has it. At first, your initial reaction is to just kind of take it personally. Yeah. But, you know, it's been a very successful product line for us. And we had it out there it's been out there about a year now, and we've had so much positive feedback for it that a lot of people have told me, you know, just kind of take it as a compliment. And you know what, it is true. I mean, Align, there's no doubt, Align is a much bigger company than us. You know, their distribution is huge. They're based out of Taiwan. You know, we're definitely U.S.-based, definitely a smaller company making just specialized parts. And, you know, if they're taking some of my concepts and putting it to mass production, I think that's pretty cool. At least it's helping to drive the market, you know, and make some new innovations in the industry. So at first it is very frustrating. It still kind of is when you see it coming to life, but at the same time, it's just kind of, that's the way the industry is. I mean, it's a helicopter. I mean, there's been so many ideas taken from, for instance, miniature aircraft. You know, they were kind of the leaders of innovation for many years. And if you look at the helicopters of today, there's a lot of the same design aspects in those. And it's kind of one of those industries where it's just kind of an open market. And if you have a good idea, you know, it's probably going to get reused in some other brand. You know, there's only so many ways to design this stuff that every good idea everyone kind of gets excited about, and there's going to be a lot of other people following it. So, but yeah, the 700 is the new one that just came out that is really very close to this design. I think they just announced the 550-600, which we've had out there. And, you know, there are definitely differences from the pictures. I haven't seen one in real life of what Align did. They look very similar, but I think when I look into the details, they'll be very different.
Yeah. I was just wondering, since it does look very similar off initial pictures, but you're probably right. There's probably enough in the way of differences that's possible their own solution they've come up with based upon what they've seen with yours.
Yeah, and it's funny. There's rumors on the threads that, you know, that Align licensed it to me or they maliciously stole it from me, or it's funny the things that you read about on the threads that aren't really true. Really, there's just, I don't know. I mean, there's no communication with them. I wasn't aware they're coming out with anything like that. I assume they might do it because it really does work really well. But, you know, it's no, there's no licensing agreement or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're totally two different products.
Okay. So let's see. So to continue on the Align thread. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around on this here. You started doing some more parts for the 250 series. And you also have a slot on here for 100 series upgrades.
Yeah.
What's kind of your take on that size helicopter? Because whenever I've seen them, it's just kind of like so tiny that I don't want to even bother fiddling with it.
Well, I agree with you. It's even hard for me. I'm a bigger guy, and so trying to wrench, what I call wrenching, but working on one of those smaller helicopters is almost like really hard for me. But you know, the 250 was one of those product lines that we came out with out of some requests for it, and it's actually been very popular. I guess there are a lot of 250s out there around here in the Pacific Northwest where we have a lot of rain all winter long.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys that fly indoors, and you know, you go to a gym or a local, you know, mainly gymnasiums, but sometimes you can get into a bigger arena. And you'll see a lot of 250s flying around. They actually fly, I mean, they can do all the 3D stuff. They're definitely tougher. I mean, you want to be most likely a more advanced pilot to really be able to really 3D them.
Yeah.
But even with the fiberless stuff, that's kind of changing. With fiberless, it's getting easier and easier. And so the 250 stuff is there because there is a pretty good demand for it. And you know, when you're sitting around in the rain all winter long and you can't fly, well, you can go fly your 250. You know, it's going to draw a lot more interest for you. And then the 100 series we have there due to the amount of interest we've had, and I'm sure this won't surprise anybody, but the E-Flight NCPX.
Mm-hmm.
That's a helicopter we've really looked at, and if there's any helicopter that probably has the most aftermarket upgrades, it's probably that helicopter.
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
Oh man, I mean, companies I never heard of are popping up left and right making upgrades for that thing. And you know, it's probably I don't know, but it's probably definitely E-Flight's probably biggest success of all time. I think would be that helicopter, and we've had a lot of interest in that. I mean, I own 2 of them myself. I know there's pretty much every guy I know owns 1 or maybe 2 or 3 of them in case they crash.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're a ton of fun to fly inside your house. So we've definitely looked at that. And from our standpoint, it is hard. You know, doing those little tiny aluminum parts to the quality that we inspect to
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a challenge. And doing it at a price that's at least relatively competitive with the market is definitely tough. And but we have some ideas, and I'm looking at a design right now that might carry through. But you know, we're in no rush to do it. But there's some guys that are really even the brushless systems that they're putting in those helicopters are pretty amazing.
Yeah, it kind of astonishes me the amount of power these guys are trying to pump through these things.
I know. I think one of the guys that flies with us has one that's I think spinning. I want to say he said it's 7,000 RPM or something. I mean, it is so fast. It's almost mind-boggling. It's kind of just out the limits, you know.
Yeah, it astonishes me, especially since these guys are like, oh yeah, I've got to throw, you know, either a bigger tail motor onto it or stretch the tail boom, throw 2 tail motors onto it, hold everything, and then they're throwing more power at it.
I know. I think it becomes an obsession. I mean, some of the people that I know have spent more on that helicopter than they have on some of their bigger, large ones because they, you know, they just. I think every single part is non-stock anymore. You know, and so it's definitely one of those helicopters that some people just absolutely love. You know, so that's what that 100 series position is there. We don't have anything coming anytime soon, but we definitely have some designs that we've been testing and some cool things we've learned doing it. So we'll hope to have something in the near future.
Oh, cool. Now, things that we've talked about on a couple occasions since we started doing these interviews. I'm seeing a model here for Real Flight. It has KDE Direct 700 written on the side. Now, I realize that's basically is that pretty much just an Line 700E?
Yes, that's true. That was, I was contacted by Knife Edge Software, the producers of Real Flight 6, and they asked me if we were thinking of doing a KDE Direct components in their software. And of course, I took it as, yeah. I mean, I use Real Flight, and I think that would be great. And so, yeah, they basically built up their own 700E, and all the KDE components, including the motor, were installed onto that system, so the entire lineup that we have. And then their engineers developed the model of it and did all the test flying of it, and I did help some with them on some things. And and from there it got into their software. So they had told me that they had a new package coming out where Real Flight 6 was really focused on helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, they've been helicopter-based, but they've always really geared, I think, towards airplanes. And this was their first really true big helicopter launch where they redesigned the entire physics. They had the Heli Mega Pack, I think they call it. You know, they had various pros like Kyle Stacy, Matt Bodos.
Yeah, they did they did quite the marketing drive with people giving input and stuff like that.
Yeah, and and they were flying stuff. I think they just released Matt Bodos' Synergy models into the system. So, yeah, I mean, and I was excited to see it because they never had Align helicopters in their software. So to fly in a Align-like helicopter, the KDE 700 model in there is the only one. And it does fly really, really close to the exact model. So it's actually, that's the one I use. It's great.
Yeah. So I guess this brings up the question of, there is now in the simulator a model called KDE Direct 700. Now, when will there be a truly KDE designed 700? I'm going to ask this every time.
I know. We've had more and more interest in this. We have really looked at it, and absolutely, it's always on our thought process. And I'd love to get something out there for them, for our customers. It's a tricky business. There's so much competitiveness in it that our biggest concern is if we come out with something, how quickly will it be replicated, right? And because there is a large financial investment for us to do it, and if I wanted to do it, I'd want to keep as much as I could in the United States. I mean, I'm not going overseas manufacturing on this, and that is the biggest hang up for us.
Yeah.
And but no, I mean, definitely we've done some designs for other things, including UAV projects where we've done some helicopter designs for them.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the RC, we have some things on the table, but definitely not in any rush.
Okay.
I want to do it right and make sure everything is right, and until I get all the final components laid out, it'll be a little while.
Yeah, I'm certainly appreciative of the made in the U.S. aspect. I know Brian James over at Miniature always talks about that and is very proud of that. And Augusto at Avant is always very proud to say that he manufactures as much as he possibly can in the U.S.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's really cool. And, we're growing. Our shop is still, we could definitely probably do it all in-house, but there's all the little components that we've looked at. For like one instance, just like something as simple as the canopy grommets.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the little components that we currently don't make that just takes time to find a reputable supplier, and and building those business relationships. So it just takes time.
No, I can see that being an issue in what I do, which is the electric vehicle stuff. It's always a pain of finding a decent supplier that you can get things from, that you can get fairly guaranteed consistency on the performance of the product, good reliability standards, and that they'll have the product in stock for you when you need it. Yeah, that's the toughest thing. And our goal would be, if we did it, our goal would be to be fully vertically integrated. And what that meaning that, we have manufacturing in-house, that if there's something on the market that's not quite working right, maybe a shaft surfacing isn't quite as smooth as it should be, or just something we're not happy with. It would be set up in such a way that I just walk downstairs or whatever and say, all right, we need to fix this now. The hardest part about going overseas or even further east
in the United States or anything is that delay of, if there's a problem, how long is it going to take to fix it? And
Right.
that's something I would never want to run into. We're vertically integrated now, so if there's something a customer doesn't like or we find a problem, we fix it as quick as we can. And that's been a big advantage for us. And that's something I would want for a whole helicopter.
No, and that's totally understandable, being able to solve a problem at any point in the production process, whether it be sales side, actual machining side, packaging, whatever.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing the things that come up. I mean, even something as simple as you run out of a couple screws, can hold up an entire kit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lot of the design side, I think, is actually the easiest part. It's making it happen from till it's finally all in the box and every part is there. That's the true magic of doing it right. So
yeah. So what events are you planning to make it to this year? IRCHA again?
Yeah, definitely IRCHA. And am I going to see you there again, Dave?
It's a possibility, and I'm not sure at this point. It's my last term of school. I've got a couple trips people want to go on during the term, but cross fingers, I should be there.
Oh, yeah, it's your last term of school. You should go out having fun, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely going to make IRCHA. I'm actually looking, this is totally late notice, but I'm kind of looking to try and make the Huntsville event next weekend. And then for sure we're going to go to the Orlando show in December. It'll be a good excuse for us to get out of the rain, and it'll be just fun. I'm probably going to take the whole family and, do the Disney World thing and all that. And, other than that, there is the Seattle show, which is always really popular in July, called Snohomish.
Okay.
It's a town in Washington that I'll be attending. There's a small show in Othello, Washington. And there's a couple other shows I'm looking at, kind of on the West Coast, but I'm not exactly sure what I'm kind of looking at potentially going to Joe Knoll just to see. I've never been to a giant airplane show.
Yeah,
so,
I've always been told that Knoll is it's kind of a must-see at least once.
That's kind of what I hear, just to go enjoy it. And the great guys at Castle Creations are doing Flightline, so I might go there and fly some helicopters and have fun with them. But I've never been to a big airplane show. That might be kind of fun. I've never seen that, so that would purely be going to have fun, and I don't think I'd even take anything to sell or anything. I'll just go and enjoy myself. So
that's probably how I'd do it if I went.
Yeah. That's even how we do IRCHA. We could do a booth, but I just like to go and just enjoy myself. I'm a definite engineer. I'm not big on face-to-face sales and all that stuff. I just like to go meet a bunch of people and have a good time and show off new products and just go to enjoy the hobby. So
yeah, there's certainly more than enough to do just walking around IRCHA talking to people.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure it's going to be even bigger this year. So every year there's going to be so many 700 electrics up in the sky. It's going to be the battle of
the
700.
800 stretch or whatever up there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll probably bring it for sure. I'll have to ship it out there. We're out here on the West Coast, but the 800 is pretty big. I mean, from the canopy to the end of the table or the tail, I have a Ford truck, and I put it in the back seat, and it extends the entire length. I mean, I don't know, and that's with the blades folded up and everything. I mean, it's almost like flying a larger scale airplane. I mean, it is that much bigger. So.
Well, that's incredible. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for all your time.
Yeah, thank you, David.
I've taken up already about a half hour of your time, so I should probably let you get back to work. Anything else you want to plug real quickly here before we wrap up?
Not too much, David. I just, again, like I always say at the end of the shows, is just thank you to everyone's support. Like I've always said, we do everything based on quality and design. I don't try and chase prices, so there's a lot of times we're definitely more expensive than the competitors, but I hope the people that buy it really see the difference in the quality, and that's what we stand for. So, and we're definitely a smaller company, but we're there to try and help people and then just enjoy the hobby. So, again, thanks to everyone's support. There's a lot of great guys out there, and hopefully I'll be able to meet a lot of these customers at the show. So
Yeah.
it'll be a good time.
Well, awesome. If you'd like to check out Patrick's stuff, check out KDEDirect.com. And if you have suggestions for planes that you want to see improvements for, email them at sales@KDEDirect.com. Also follow their Twitter account. So, Patrick, thanks again. I look forward to seeing you at IRCHA, hopefully.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Have a great one.
All right. You too.
Thank you again, Patrick, for coming on the show. His website is kdedirect.com. And if you'd like to give him any suggestions for upgrades you'd like to see, be sure to email him, sales@kdedirect.com. So I think we'll wrap up the show here at this point. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. I really appreciate it. And I'd really appreciate input from you all. Please go on to the website, rcflightline.com. Join the forum there. There's a Beyond the Flightline show forum that you can post comments, questions to, suggestions that you might have for interviews that you'd like to hear. You can also find me on Twitter, which at the moment is rcfreakpodcast.com. Please give me recommendations on a new Twitter handle for that. I think Beyond the Flightline for a Twitter handle is a little long, so please give recommendations for that one. You can email me, dicey@rcflightline.com. I try to read them as frequently as I can. I haven't got many. Just some quick administrative stuff that's gone through that one. So please email me. I want to hear your questions, comments, whatever. If you just want to talk about something, I will try and respond as quickly as I can. And I enjoy getting emails, so don't feel hesitant to do that. You can also find me on numerous forums, RC groups, Heli Freak, Run Rider, Watt Flyer, RC Universe. I am Pattern Dreamer over there, and tons of other websites. I'm forgetting everyone I'm on right now. But definitely thank you again for listening to the show. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. The next interview, potentially, is with Dennis from Carden Aircraft. So if you hear this one before I record, which is going to be on Wednesday the 18th, theoretically, and you want to get me any questions for Dennis, please email them to me, send them to me on Twitter, whatever, and I'll make sure to ask questions for you. So thank you again. This has been Beyond the Flightline, episode 2. So have a good week. Talk to you later. Bye.